Welcome to the Next Level Arcade. I'm your host, as always, Nick Smith, and I'm playing pool with Troy from Backblaze. Now, I say playing. It's really going to be me watching him knock the balls into the pockets, but that's a different story for another day. Troy, welcome.
Thank you so much. You're giving me a lot of credit here.
You haven't seen me play yet, so not a lot of credit. So with that, I'm going to say you break, I talk.
Sounds good.
That's how this is going to go. All right, Troy, Backblaze. I'm sure there's 17 people in the world who still don't know who you guys are, so let's educate those 15 of them because the other two already left.
Excellent.
Who's Backblaze? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we do cloud object storage. So similar to like an Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure Blob, something like that, but at a fifth of the price.
So you're the world's junk drawer, right? People just throw you all their stuff, you store it away from them in data format, and voila.
Nick, I have been told I have a lot of junk in the trunk, but Backblaze does sometimes serve as a junk drawer for folks. But not just the junk, we hold the good stuff too.
No, that's true. But I tend to find that people, especially in the media entertainment industry, people like to hold on to their stuff for a really long time. They never get rid of things. Oh, that 8-ball's in a dangerous position over there. So I'm going to say, well done if you're just trying to get me to lose.
I'm setting myself up for later.
Yeah, no, totally. You're thinking like 17 moves ahead right now. This is 12D chess. But we tend to see video people tend to be pack rats.
Absolutely.
Right? They save everything. And so you need a place to put it because, eventually you fill up all your hard drives and your SANs and your NASs. And I'm really not liking what you did to me here. But I'm going to try and pull something off. Let's see if I can
maybe
make
a
it
trick
work.
shot. No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Us folks in the media industry tend to want to hold on to everything.
Denied.
And unfortunately, sometimes it could be years later when you got to pull back down footage that you need for a project, right? In the news industry, we see this with people passing away. In sports, we see this with highlight reels from previous seasons, right? All that data's got to live somewhere. You can't really get rid of anything. So we think Backblaze is a great solution for that.
Well, yeah, because you can keep adding hard drives locally, but then eventually hard drives can corrupt, things can die. Yeah. An object is built in a way that it's not that it's non-corruptible, but it's backed up effectively. Right?
That's right.
There's multiple copies of it, or pieces of copies in that essence.
That's right. You can think of it, right? If I'm putting everything on hard drives, right, in my own storage, I have to back up those hard drives separately, right, in case something fails. Anything that's moving, a spinning disk, is eventually going to fail, right? Backblaze builds all that stuff into the back end, right? So you don't have to worry about having a backup of your archive. You don't have to worry about learning how to, set up something like a RAID array, right, to make sure everything's distributed and safe. You don't have to worry about encryption, right?
Well, you're not dealing with the maintenance costs and the electricity and all the things that it takes to maintain it. That is an interesting choice. I would have thought you were going to go for the strike behind you.
I did.
You did. Son of a biscuit. You see that? He dropped two. Jordan, I'm hoping you got that shot.
So I know you're thinking I'm a ringer right now.
No, you're already doing better than the last 4 players.
I promise I'm not, as you can see by that shot.
Oh, that is
I'm just helping you out.
Thank you.
Just helping you out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously you've seen me play. I need all the help I can get. When you look at the storage industry and the cloud industry as a whole, what's exciting for you right now? What is keeping you up at night going, I love this?
I mean, I know at this point it sounds cliche, Nick, but AI. It's so cool to see all the advances that are happening in the AI world right now, and being able.
Yeah, no.
You're setting yourself up.
No, you're right. I'm 12 moves out still.
Right, you're playing three-dimensional chess.
It's interesting because AI is the billion-dollar buzzword according to the stock market, and it's what is on a lot of our customers' minds, a lot of our manufacturers' minds, is AI. So what about AI is it that has got you excited?
Well, I think just like in the media use case that we talked about earlier, AI, there's a lot of junk in the trunk, right?
Yeah.
So when you're gathering all this data to train your models, the latest and greatest models, not just the ChatGPTs and those folks of the world, but all the kind of specialized tools that are out there that are creating models specifically to solve very specific problems. That's really the way the industry is going. And all that data that you use to train those models has to live somewhere, right? If I throw away all this data that I collected to train my latest and greatest model, and we got version 2.0 coming out next month, we got to run all that data through that new model again, right?
Yeah.
So you have to hold on to that data. Backblaze helps solve that problem really easily.
So a lot of what I'm seeing in the AI space right now boils down to sort of two camps. It's generative, meaning I'm creating, memes and fake, deep fakes, and then it's that one wanted to end.
It wanted to.
It's either generating content or analyzing content. Do you see any AI tools being built to manage content, to move data, to create analytics that aren't about the content itself, but the usage of the content?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, AI is really it's almost, nice shot.
Thank you. I get one every game.
It's almost a wild, wild west space where so many new use cases and tools are coming out to be able to solve problems, like traditional problems, right? Like you mentioned, things like creating and solving problems around maybe usage of data or storage of data, not just things like metadata, like we've seen AI tools in the industry for a while, right? And to be able to have Backblaze integrate into those tools has been really, really cool. We have an S3 compatible API, so anything that works with the S3 protocol works with us.
And that S3, for anybody who doesn't know, that's sort of the standard language for putting data in and through the cloud.
That's right.
The cloud storage. Yeah, I put
move
that there
around
on
this
purpose
here.
to mess people up. I always try to line the white right up against that.
All right,
pole.
we're gonna try this one here. Nope.
Ooh, it's got the soft touch there.
Yeah, I tried. Not soft enough.
No. Okay, so what's changing or what's innovating in the storage space? Like, what are the big changes that have happened either in the last 12 or what's coming?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing the kind of storage space, at least in the cloud, start to move to is supporting more performant use cases. So I'll give you an example of something Backblaze has done recently. So one of the challenges with using object storage, and I don't want to get anyone too, I don't want to get too technical or bore your ear off, Nick, but
you can't get too technical.
One of the challenges, especially with media, right, when you're using object storage, is you got to wait for a full file to upload before you can start doing something with it, right? So if I'm editing content that someone's shooting remotely, I got to wait till the whole file's uploaded to the cloud to do something with it. And there's software out there that helps solve some of those problems and makes things more performant. But we actually rolled out a new feature called Live Read this year, or at the end of last year, which allows you to start accessing files before they finish uploading. So it performs more like a traditional file system storage, which is really cool.
It's updating the TOC during the chunking process, so to speak, right?
That's right.
That once it gets enough data that it can reconstitute, you can start interacting with the file.
That's
which
correct.
Has got to be interesting for AI because that could speed up the AI processing, all other areas that it's being used.
Man.
It happens. Don't feel bad.
It does happen. No, you're absolutely right. And what's cool is that can be used for essentially any use case where you're taking advantage of large files, right? It eliminates that downtime that you have to wait for your content to finish uploading before you can start doing things with it. But no, we're really excited about the live read feature. And the implementation is super simple too. It's, from a technical perspective, it's an extra header on an API call, which is what you use to interact with object storage, right? So make it super simple. Anyone could take advantage of it. We're starting to, work with some of the major players in the space to integrate this functionality into their products. To make it even easier for folks to take advantage of. But you can imagine, like in the broadcast industry, like you said, the AI industry.
Nice job.
Thank you. Just a ton of use cases this is going to open up for live storage, or for cloud storage.
It seems like every day there's a new cloud player popping up, right? I mean, it's like, hey, I stood up some storage and now I'm renting it out to people. What's your methodology with customers, to say, hey, this is why you should choose Backblaze? Right? I mean, it's your job to get people to choose Backblaze, but what are the conversation points that are helping people make that decision?
Yeah. So, the first thing I think is simplicity. Like you said, there's a ton of other options out there and more popping up every day. But a lot of these options that are out there, object storage is not their primary focus, right? They do a lot of other things. You can think of like an Amazon or a Google who does a million different things, self-driving cars, retail stores, et cetera, right? And their storage offering is just a very small part of what their overall business does. We focus just on the storage aspect. Oh.
Don't go in.
Oh, well, I appreciate the setup.
Yeah, no, if I'm nothing, I'm a helpful other partner.
So we get to avoid some of the bloat that other companies have to deal with when they have a bevy of other services. We just do object storage. So if you're setting up your storage with Backblaze, all you do is you make an account with your email, set a password, you go in, You make an application key, which is essentially, your name and password. You make a bucket, and then you're ready to go. Like, it's really within a minute or two to be able to start using Backblaze. I'd say the other part is our focus on security. This is really a differentiator between us and maybe some of the other players in the space, is that we have a really, it's part of our core values to have a commitment to being a secure company. We are actually a SOC 2 certified company, not just our data centers, right, and our hardware, but the company as a whole is audited and has SOC 2 certification, which differentiates us from a lot of the other players out there.
No, that's huge. That was on my list of things I wanted to talk about. You're way ahead, which is killer, because I think security is one of these pieces that you've got to consider in the cloud. Sorry, we sort of take for granted that things are safe up there.
Oh, table scratch?
I was holding for that one. No, I like where it's at right now. I think we sort of take for granted, that it's like, oh, it's somebody else's problem. They've done the math. They're doing the work. It's all secure. Yeah. Right. No, we have to verify. We have to check, and especially for some of the customers that we're dealing with, which are dealing with films that haven't been released, private testing data, all this information that's, super important. Sorry, there I go, trying to think through while I'm not making my.
Well, it doesn't really help me.
You guys didn't get that one right. I'm just saying that you didn't see that.
Let's see. Yeah, so that's something that's really important to our company, and I think kind of the last point that I'll make, I think that's a big differentiator for us, is our cost offering. Other folks come in at around a similar price to us, but they kind of nickel and dime their customers, which doesn't feel good, right? So we want to make our pricing as simple and reliable as our service. Yeah. And so with our B2 Reserve product, you pay one price that covers your storage, covers your egress, covers your applications, transaction fees, like essentially one price that you pay for whatever the term of your contract is.
Yeah, so no gotchas, no, sort of the a la carte version of a cell phone plan, right?
Exactly.
We kind of come full circle on. Nice drop.
Thank you. That was legal, right?
What do you, when you look at the industry right now, what is missing or what needs to change? Like what does this industry look like 5 years from now?
Wow, 5 years from now, I think you're going to see a lot more AI integrated tools into essentially every part of a customer's workflow, right? Right now, I think you're starting to see some of that creep in, where some folks like MAMs and storage solutions are starting to integrate little pieces of AI here and there, but I think, just the way that's going to revolutionize, shortening down the time that people have to spend on their workflows is going to be incredible. From every part, right? There could be AI in the camera that's doing some processing on it before it even gets sent to where it's being stored, right? AI processing that data in storage, AI processing that data or doing things within the media asset management ecosystem. Like end to end, I think we're going to see AI just like cut down the time so much. Yeah. And I know obviously there's concerns with AI with things like job replacement and things of that nature, but to me, what it's doing is eliminating time and allowing creative people time to be more creative.
Yeah,
and not focus on the hard stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend so much time moving files around and determining what files we want to use. It's absolutely. So last question, you're about to win.
Yeah, you're only 2 balls behind.
But
and
it's usually where I start to fall apart and not do so good. What's the one use case or customer story where you looked at what they were doing and said, I would have never thought our product would be used for this or in that way? Like there's got to be a time where you're like, really? They're using our product?
Yeah, I'll tell you about a recent one. The Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs, right? Oh, so close.
By 3 feet.
Yeah, well, missed it by that much. We'll go there. Philadelphia Eagles were looking at modernizing their workflow, okay? They were replacing on-premise storage, replacing an LTO system they were using for archive. They upgraded their entire workflow using a whole new cloud-based media asset management tool, wanted to upgrade their archive storage as well, and chose Backblaze for that. And I think, specifically kind of in that sports realm, it gets me really excited because there's so many use cases. There's training, there's archive, there's stadium entertainment, right? There's all these kinds of use cases there. Being able to work with them was really, really cool. I never thought that we'd be working with the Super Bowl champion, so that was pretty sweet. I missed it.
Oh, man. All right.
This game's going to go on forever.
Yeah, I know. Troy's going to close this one up here and probably give another 2 hits. So with that, I'm going to say, hey, listen, thanks for being on Next Level Tech, the arcade version. That was Troy from Backblaze, and we will see you all on the next episode.